I cuss in my content. So.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, maggots, and welcome. Oh shit! I forgot. Damn, I freaking hit live, and I'm not even prepared. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I am not even prepared for my own crap. I feel silly.
Quack.
Hold on, I can't introduce you until I get my music playing. Hold on. Here, I'll put the "will be right back." And we're back. I dearly apologize about that. I forgot to add my background music. This is the Good Vibes Lounge. We gotta have the relaxing music playing in the background so you know that you're having a good time. Because I'm sure having a good time. Welcome to the podcast this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This afternoon we have a special guest on the podcast. Please welcome Sownmanatee. Sownmanatee, if you'd like to introduce yourself to the maggots this afternoon.
Hi everyone. I am Sownmanatee, and I like games of different varieties.
Well, as you know, Sown, this is a gaming channel, and this is the biggest topic we talk about on these podcasts.
My knowledge from games goes from retro all the way to not so much today, but some. But most of my gaming is around the 90s and some of the 80s.
Classic era of the NES.
Mm-hmm. I was actually talking to somebody the other day. They have a big collection of NES. And I said, oh, yeah, well, do you have a game called Legend of the Ghost Lion? And they're like, no, I've never even heard of that. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's a really obscure game. I know, like, a lot of obscure games, so...
When it comes to video games, I have a bigger nostalgia touch than I do for these new modern video games. Everything is too competitive nowadays.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's why I gravitate, not just because, it's from my childhood, but I gravitate towards it because it's more about gameplay and the story versus most stuff nowadays, which is, competitive or, just not really about the game itself.
A game is not a game unless it has online multiplayer anymore.
Yeah, one of my problems with Diablo 4, I'm thankful I didn't buy it. It's on Game Pass. And I grew up playing Diablo, so I love Diablo, Champions of Norath, all that stuff. But when I played Diablo 4, I don't know if you know this, but you can't even play it unless you have internet.
That's crucial. And that's our gaming society nowadays. Everything's about online. You have to be online if you want to play this game. Oh, by the way, were you excited to sit down and play that video game that you were so hyped that you bought, but you have to wait 3 to 5 hours for a 60 to 100 gigabyte update?
Yeah, don't. I don't like that either. I miss the days where you could just put the game in and play it.
What happened in the good old
I
days?
miss
What
those
happened in
days.
the good old days of just taking home a video game from the video store, popping that bitch into your console, and you were playing that shit right away?
Yeah, I miss that very terribly. I find it so frustrating when I find a game I really like and I can't play it, or I just bought it, but because 5 updates came out for it, I have to download those before I can even play the game.
Cruel what they're doing to the gaming community nowadays. I remember back in the day when people like you or me would like things like Dungeons and Dragons or Yu-Gi-Oh or video games, and we were considered losers and nerds, and now it's all over the place.
Yeah, it's definitely. I definitely remember like the people being portrayed as playing video games in D&D were the nerds and the fat kids in their room, and that those are the only people who were portrayed playing video games. Now it's everybody. I mean, which is kind of cool in some ways, but in some ways it's kind of.
I wish I could have a better understanding of it.
Well, when people started to learn that they could use video games as an escape from their reality, that's when it became extremely popular. It became no longer about just something you do as a pastime. And a lot of that's where a lot of that comes from.
PlayStation 1 games.
Oh man, Legend Dragoon. I love Legend Dragoon. I remember when I first played, I didn't worry about Stardust. I just played the game, normal. And my friend even, he had a printout of where all the Stardust was. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about that this time around. If I find it, I find it. But in my second playthrough, I looked at the paper and I got all the Stardust and stuff. I loved Legend Dragoon. That was probably one of my favorite PlayStation games besides Final Fantasy VII. I love that. Let's see here. Another game that I loved playing a lot was Mega Man Legends. Now, some people will be like, "Oh, that game was garbage." I loved it. I thought it was like super cool idea and all that.
Nostalgia is reaching a new high, but unfortunately, our beloved Nintendo company is taking a strike down on a lot of Nintendo-related content all over the internet.
Yeah, well, if they don't be careful, they're going to wind up being out of business because they're stepping on a lot of toes that they have no business stepping on.
They're using
I don't know
IP.
if you remember.
They have IPs that they're doing absolutely nothing with, but yet if somebody else in the community that's not working for Nintendo says, "Hey, I want to keep using that IP and make good games for it," Nintendo's like, "No, that belongs to us. Even though we're not going to do anything with it." How much more money do you need, Nintendo? Aren't you rich enough for Mario?
That's the essence of greed. More. It's never enough. And that's why I say if they don't watch it, they're going to find themselves out of business because, you're actually stepping on a lot of. I remember a couple of years ago, I don't know if you remember, but a couple of years ago, they sued a bunch of YouTubers for doing Let's Plays. And they actually sued them. Now, I believe the suits were dropped, but it's just a point of, they went after these YouTubers sharing their games.
Now, how are you going to sue people that are enjoying your video games and showing that to the world. That honestly should make you more money because people will want to go out and buy your games.
It was crazy, and then like you said, they'll go after people who use IPs of games nobody even knows. Like there are IPs that nobody's even heard of, right? And it's like they'll still go after them, and it's like, dude, just leave it alone. Like, you are making plenty of money. But so that's why I say, if they don't watch if they don't watch it, they may find themselves in bankruptcy, because I am starting to see people slowly walk away from Nintendo. And really, the only reason why they have such a fan base is not because they have a good system or games, because in reality, I mean, you know this, Nintendo only has a handful of good games nowadays. It isn't like back when we were growing up, where, you know, the Super Nintendo was almost a good game almost every time it turned out on Super Nintendo, or even on the 64. Every time it turned out, it was a good game. Nowadays, they've got the bread and butter is what? Mario, Pokemon, and Zelda. And they're talking about retiring Zelda, and they're talking about retiring Mario.
Pokemon's kind of in the toilet right now.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. So, and the only reason people are still around, really, in reality, is because of nostalgia. They grew up with Nintendo. Their kids grew up with Nintendo, and that's really what has rooted them in our culture, as you know, in our society. The way it is, it has very little to do with how good their games are, because they haven't really produced a new good game in a long time, except for Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom.
No,
again,
but they're
that's
gonna
still the Zelda.
No, but they're gonna come around and they're gonna remake video games that have already been made years ago. Excuse me, like Super Mario RPG that got an HD remake. Who asked for that?
Mm-hmm. Well, they're doing that so they can. You're right.
Paper Mario, Thousand Year Door. Why are we reselling video games?
So they can renew the copyright, so that when you go to download the ROM, even though if it's the old version, technically it's still, the copyright's been reset, so they can sue you for it.
Okay, so they're gonna.
That's the whole reason.
So they're gonna take menial titles like Super Mario RPG, Paper Mario 1000 Year Door, but they're not going to give the consumers what they've been asking for years, and that's an HD remake of Super Mario 64. Everybody's been asking that from Nintendo from day one.
Yeah, that's just like everybody's been asking for that, and I mean, that's like the big thing, you know. That was up there with, you know, that's up there with Conker's Bad Fur Day, a sequel for Conker's Bad Fur Day. You know, that's, I mean, those two are like the most requested, in Banjo 3E. You know, those are three of the most. Well, I don't know if they could do those two because they belong to Rare, so I don't know if they could do Banjo or the other one, but they could definitely do Mario 64 though, the HD remake, and they should so make. Don't change the mechanics, because the mechanics are fantastic for, you know, for the time, and we even see that in the DS remake that the mechanics are fine.
I will give a mechanical change if they ever do decide to make an HD remake of Mario 64, and that's a free camera, not Lakitu getting stuck and having to click the C button multiple times to change the camera. I want a free camera for a modernized Mario 64.
Yeah, that's the only mechanic I'd agree to change is the camera. But everything else is great. So yeah, HD remake of Mario 64. That's the whole reason for the remakes. It's not because nobody's demanding them. It's because people are downloading the originals, and so the persecute those people, they make a remake so they can go after those people legally and say, hey, the copyright's been renewed, either stop or we can pursue you legally. So that's the only reason why, like, Link's Awakening, which I did like the remake.
Oh, it was fantastic.
It was fantastic. I agree to that. But the whole reason for that was not to reamp it. It was to renew the copyright contract, because people download that. That's one of the most downloaded games in emulation culture is Link's Awakening. So that's any Zelda game, really.
Well, I can already say a game that already tops that we just discussed, and that's Super Mario 64. Every single person on YouTube, on streaming, plays Super Mario 64. They have speedrun that game so many times.
Yeah, I mean, there's even
time for an update.
Was an indie. Yeah, there's all kinds. We need an update for that for sure. But I mean, I don't understand what's so hard about. If you want to renew your copyrights, cool. Then renew the copyrights of what the people want. I don't understand that, but.
What's going on with Sony right now? What's their deal? Microsoft is claiming that they're stealing Game Pass.
So they're not stealing Game Pass, but okay, because of their deal, that's kind of like Game Pass. The what is it? The PlayStation Plus or whatever, where you can stream games off of it. What's it called? PlayStation Now. So they're saying that Sony took their idea, which I would argue that they didn't exactly take it, because unlike the Xbox Game Pass, you not only, I believe you can also that also covers movies too, if I remember right. I could be wrong, but they have a larger library than. Okay, so like if Sony was like, okay, we're doing a thing like Game Pass, but we're only going to cover Xbox One games, or I mean PlayStation 3 games, or PlayStation 4 games, then I'll be like, okay, well maybe they copied. But as you know, if you have the whole package, it goes all the way back to 2. So I don't know. I still don't see the problem, because like Netflix, people copy from Netflix. Like Netflix was the first streaming service. Can Hulu now go after Netflix? I mean, can Netflix now go after Hulu? Like, yo, you're doing streaming movies just like me. Like it's on, you know. Like, I don't know. It's crazy. But Microsoft is mad because they're in they're both Nintendo and Microsoft are slowly losing their foothold in the gaming industry, and even Xbox. I've heard Xbox has talked about maybe slowly getting out of the console industry.
Xbox keeps shutting down companies left and right. They ain't gonna have anything left to sell in their IPs.
No,
they already had they already had an imminent failure when it came to the Halo franchise. They killed it with Halo Infinite, and just that multiplayer just sucks.
Yeah, so I stopped playing Halo after Halo 2, but I've heard that Halo Infinite was probably the worst. Best advertisement, but it was the worst as far as the Halo series goes.
They tried to recreate what Halo 1 did, and it failed doing it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Unless you return to the actual formula, of whatever it is, you won't be able to recreate it perfectly. And even then, there's no guarantee that you'll recreate it perfectly, because you need the mindset of the people who did it and what frame. I don't know. I feel like the gaming industry is, instead of focusing on the customer, they're focused on money. And I feel like that we're gonna experience another video game crash because of it. What do you think?
I think that gaming is going to take a whole nother level, and it's gonna get to the point where gaming won't even be controller used. Everything will be all virtual in your shop. Like, everything's gonna feel too real when it comes to gaming, because you're gonna play a video game in the virtual world, and it's like you just signed up for the army.
Yeah, I mean, when virtual VR first came out, it was a very exciting thing. But now it's just like everything's gearing towards it, and it's
well,
like
with the increase of with this AI and what it's doing with businesses and everything, we're going to be looking at a future where physical activity will be a thing of the past.
Yeah, and I know like some of the newer generations won't understand this probably. There's something great about having a controller in your hands. There's something magical about putting the cartridge in and hearing it click. It's pretty satisfying. So what are your thoughts on that?
I love the old ways of gaming. It was the only way to game, and it was